One of the other components of workflow is operating system. So I told you offline that for the first time in my life, I'm expanding my sort of realm of exploration to the Apple ecosystem, to Macs, iPhone, and so on. For most of my life, I've been a Linux, Windows, and WSL1, WSL2 person, which I think are all wonderful. But I'm expanding to also trying Mac, because it's another way of building, and it's also a way of building that a large part of the community currently that's utilizing LLMs and agents is using. So that's the reason I'm expanding to it. But is there something to be said about the different operating systems here? We should say that OpenClaw is supported across the operating systems.
Yeah.
I saw WSL2 recommended, side Windows for certain operations, but then Windows, Linux, macOS are obviously supported.
Yeah, it should even work natively in Windows. I just didn't have enough time to properly test it. And like the last 90% of software always easier than the first 90%. So I'm sure there's some dragons left that will eventually nail out. My road was for a long time Windows, just because I grew up with that. And I switched and had a long phase with Linux, built my own kernels and everything. And then I went to university and I had my hacky Linux thing and saw this white MacBook. And I just saw this as a thing of beauty, the white plastic one. And then I converted to Mac, because mostly I was sick that audio wouldn't work on Skype and all the other issues that Linux had for a long time. And then I just stuck with it. And then I dug into iOS, which required macOS anyhow, so it was never a question. I think Apple lost a little bit of its lead in terms of native. Native apps used to be so much better. And especially in the Mac, there's more people that build software with love. On Windows, Windows has much more. And like function-wise, there's just more, period. But a lot of it felt more functional and less done with love. Mac always attracted more designers and people. I felt, even though often it has less features, it had more delight. And playfulness. So I always valued that. But in the last few years, many times I actually prefer, oh God, people are going to roast me for that, but I prefer Electron apps because they work. And native apps often, especially if it's like a web service with a native app, are lacking features. I'm not saying it couldn't be done. It's more like a focus thing that for many companies, native was not that big of a priority. But if they build an Electron app, it's the only app. So it is a priority and there's a lot more code sharing possible. And I build a lot of native Mac apps. I love it. I can help myself. I love crafting little Mac menu bar tools. I built one to monitor your codecs use. I built one I call Trimmy, that's specifically for agentic use. When you select text that goes over multiple lines, it would remove the new lines, so you could actually paste it to a terminal. That was, again, I like, this is annoying me, and after the 20th time of it is annoying me, I just built it. There's a cool Mac app for OpenClaw that I don't think many people discovered yet, also because it still needs some love. It feels a little bit too much like the Huma car right now, because I just experiment a lot with it. It lacks the polish.
So you still love it. You still love adding to the delight of that operating system.
But then you realize, I also built one, for example, for GitHub. And then if you use Swift UI, the latest and greatest at Apple, and took them forever to build something to show an image from the web. Now we have async image. But I added support for it, and then some images would just not show up or be very slow. And I had a discussion with Codex, hey, why is that a bug? And even Codex said like, yeah, there's this ASIC image, but it's really more for experimenting and it should not be used in production. But that's Apple's answer to like showing images from the web. This shouldn't be so hard. You know, this is like insane.
Yeah.
Like, how am I in 2026 and my agent tells me don't use the stuff Apple built because it's there, but it's not good. And like, this is now in the weights. This is just, to me, this is like, they had so much head start and so much love, and they kind of just like plundered it and didn't evolve it as much as they should.
But also, there's just the practical reality. If you look at Silicon Valley, most of the developer world that's kind of playing with LLMs and agentic AI, they're all using Apple products. And then at the same time, Apple is not really like leaning on that. Like they're not opening up and playing and working together and like, yes.
Isn't it funny how they completely blunder AI and yet everybody's buying Mac Minis?
What does that even make sense? You're quite possibly the world's greatest Mac salesman of all time.
No, you don't need a Mac Mini to install OpenClaw. You can install it on the web. There's a concept called nodes, so you can like make your computer a node and it will do the same. There is something said for running it on separate hardware. That right now is useful. There's a big argument for the browser. You know, I built an agentic browser using there. And I mean, it's basically Playwright with a bunch of extras to make it easier for agents.
Playwright is a library that controls the browser,
Yeah.
and it's really nice, easy to use.
And our internet is slowly closing down. Like there's a whole movement to make it harder for agents to use. So if you do the same in a data center and websites detect that it's an IP from a data center, the website might just block you, or it make it really hard, or it put a lot of captures in the way of the agent. I mean, agents are quite good at happily clicking "I'm not a robot."
Yeah.
But having that on a residential IP makes a lot of things simpler. So there's ways, but it really does not need to be a Mac. It can be any old hardware. I always say like maybe use the opportunity to get yourself a new MacBook or whatever computer you use and use the old one as your server instead of buying a standalone Mac Mini. But then there's a lot of very cute things people build with Mac Minis that I like.
Yeah.
I know I don't get commission from Apple. They didn't really communicate much.
It's sad.